Hi pals, check me out following up last week's video the very next week. It's a new me. Hopefully you watched last week's video. It was all about family wisdom and the idea that there is no one way to unschool because there are so many unseen things that are unique to your family that contribute to how you make decisions. And it was an invitation to really honour all of the different things that make up your particular unschooling ecology. Today, I really want to invite us into the idea that having this sense that there is one way to unschool and one way only, it's incredibly problematic because it insists that there is only one way that people experience the world. Whereas the truth is, we know that there are many different iterations of life and experience on this planet. So here's a confession. I have been one of those people in the past. I'm sure that in the past my writing has insisted that if you're not doing this way, then you are not doing it right. I was totally consumed by this idea of children's rights, and that children's rights mean that you have to You have to go hands off when it comes to their hair or their clothes. You have to give full autonomy over what they wear, their activities, what they do with themselves. Only full autonomy is the only way that you can be a child's rights supporting parent. I wrote a lot about that, and I was called out actually, and I totally didn't get it. People were like, oh, you're showing vast amounts of privilege, and they didn't say that graciously. It was like really intense, and it really was hard to hear, and I didn't really accept it. I was just like, no, everybody should always honour children's rights. They are real, they're a fact. We all have to work to this. We have to honour our children's body autonomy. We have to live in only a consent-based way. It's the only way. I was super black and white, really clear in my head about it. On one hand, I think that there are sometimes people in society who need to be all out. They're pushing the envelope right on the edge and being like, nothing else will do. You know, so I can have a little bit of grace around myself in those times. You know, we're probably talking a few years ago now, like 8 years ago when this happened. And it's been a slow journey to me understanding what people were telling me back then. And it only really hit home for me when about 4 or 5 years ago, I was chatting to my friend who is a Māori mama, so indigenous to New Zealand, brown-skinned, brown babies, and she said that when she walks down the street with her kids, people literally wind down their window and they assume that she's letting their kids truant and that she's a neglectful mum, so they just fully type her, wind down their window and say things like, get those kids to school. So for her, when she leaves the house, she's basically armouring up herself and her kids for entering that super hostile, super racist, stereotyping world. So to do that, she does things like she makes sure that they're wearing shoes, she makes sure that they're dressed really nicely, she understands that she couldn't just let them wear their hair full of dreadlocks, or that if she did that she would have a visit from social services. So literally the government would be knocking at her door asking her why the kids aren't in school, why they've got dreadlocks in their hair, why they're not wearing shoes. It was only when she told me that story of her different experience did it kind of click in for me. And as I tell that story, I'm embarrassed that it took me that long. I can also be gracious to myself because the fact is, I have been raised in racist culture. Simply by being white in a white supremacist culture, I have a kind of white blindness that stops me from seeing and stops me from understanding. Instead of letting that kind of shame leave me like languishing and small, I instead try and use it to fuel my desire to learn more and understand more and do better. I guess I've thought about that story heaps as I consider all the people labouring out there under this idea of what unschooling looks like in practice. We can never know what somebody else's experience is, truly. We don't know what is the reasoning behind a family's decision to do this that way or do it that way. To have no rules in this whole area and total autonomy in this area, but then have these pretty strict boundaries here and boundaries there. It could be their experience of racism, or it could just be other needs that are unique to them. I think a lot of neurodiversity, we have some neurodiversity in my family, and it definitely influences how we do things. I did once upon a time want to be completely free, completely limitless, nothing, no. And actually, as the years have gone by, I have realised that particularly one of my kids needs me showing up to support her in a way more hands-on, intimate way. She needs my co-regulation rather than her own self-regulation. She needs my suggestions. She needs me to hold the line for her at times. She even asks me for it. It means that our unschooling home doesn't look how I thought it would quite a few years ago. That there are boundaries in place where I didn't think we'd have them. I guess this is probably only a glimpse into what it is like to have family members with health needs and much more hands-on support around things like medication and food choices and all that sort of thing. I also can't help but believe that this total no limits, total self-directed, complete autonomy world is somewhat driven, this feels bold to say, by a super individualistic, kind of neoliberal leaning paradigm. And that actually, in a more communal and community-based paradigm of unschooling, we would be considering far more factors than just an individual child's rights and needs. So I feel like that's probably going to be next week's topic. Anyway, I would love to hear from you. Please do leave a comment. Please do check out the link below if you want more unschooling support. I'm here for you and would love to welcome you on board into my hub circle. It's joyful and supportive and deep. Take care.